Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Turnaround Tip, and we keep getting asked, given the work that we do, which industries do we think will be the most severely impacted next year. So we thought we might just give you some insight into what we think will be the industries most challenged next year, and perhaps what you can be doing to deal with some of those challenges. Now, one thing to keep in mind with all the huge stimulus measures that have been in place this year, one industry, particularly discretionary retail. Now, discretionary retail spending is up 50% year on year, which is just astronomical and defies logic, to be honest. But that's a demonstration of how much cash has been splashed around from the 10 grand super contributions, which from all evidence would suggest it's being spent on toys and jet skis and the like, which is not what it was intended to do, but one of the unintended consequences. So discretionary retail in our eyes is certainly going to come off in a big way next year, and because that's been so buoyant this year, transport on the back of discretionary retail has also been booming, and a lot of transport companies literally can't get new trucks. So that industry will come off the boil in a fairly big way because it's tied to that. So those two industries are going to find it quite challenging into the new year. Clearly tourism, and particularly Tasmania and perhaps northern Queensland and Queensland in general, because they heavily rely upon tourism. So tourism is going to be a big sector. Hospitality, clearly, events, a lot of restaurants, if they haven't closed, they've taken on a lot of heavy water over the last 6 months or so. So they're going to find it very challenging. They may not necessarily collapse, and there's a lot of creative initiatives you can do to help get them through, but those sectors are certainly going to be impacted. And then from a sort of a macro scale, the way China is acting at the moment, if there is some further impacts on international trade, you're certainly going to see some curtailing of some capex in the mining sector, mostly on the east coast, but particularly coking coal, thermal coal, and the mining services industry, which is large and diverse, that feeds off the back of that. So if there is some further disruption there, expect some flow-on effects into the wider mining services space. So they're the main industries, and then you're going to see some pressure on commercial and industrial real estate. There's going to be a lot of resetting in values there. Residential real estate is going to be an interesting dynamic, because generally speaking, when unemployment goes up, and it's going to go up significantly next year, property values are always a casualty, because there's a lot of sales that have to take place, unfortunately, for a lot of businesses, but also individuals who have to try and sell to repay their debts. But it's going to be very different across the country, because we're already seeing in Queensland a lot of interstate migration, which is happening from Victoria and other places. So the Gold Coast, the Sunshine Coast, Toowoomba, and up to Townsville. Those property markets are seeing a huge increase right now from interstate migration, which is which no one would have foreseen only 6 months ago. But certainly commercial and industrial real estate values are going to come under some pressure across the country. So they're the main industries that we see. There may well be others. It's going to be a very interesting 12-18 months coming up. No one really knows what's going to happen and how deep the recession is going to be. Whilst we may have a technical end to the current recession, with the September quarter likely to be slightly above zero, but even if it is 0.7% positive, that's still a recession in terms of how it feels. And even if December is slightly positive, these 2 quarters will only be on the back of artificial stimulus measures, and which are all finishing effectively by December or first quarter next year. So even though we might be out of this current recession, highly likely we'll drop into another recession next year when all those stimulus measures come off, and still the uncertainty around global trade and international travel. So that's our kind of thought for the next 12 months. So if you're in those industries, take steps now, like I've said in previous episodes. Do your stress testing, get rid of non-core assets now, sweat your working capital, get those business intelligence tools in place right now. So, and have that plan be ready in case your business does get impacted, so you can be ahead of the curve and ensure your business survives into 2022.